Maria Chen was 7 years old when she first heard the sound that would change her life forever. She lived in a small apartment in Queens, New York. The apartment had only 2 rooms. Maria slept on a mattress on the floor in the living room. The walls were so thin that she could hear everything. She heard the neighbors fighting. She heard babies crying. She heard the television from the apartment above, but she never heard music. Her mother Lynn worked at a laundromat 6 blocks away. She left the house at 6 in the morning and came home at 10 at night. Her hands were always red and rough from the hot water and the chemicals. She smelled like soap and sweat, but she always smiled when she saw Maria. She always kissed her forehead and said, "My little star." Her father, Wei, drove a taxi through the dark streets of New York. He worked from midnight until noon. Maria rarely saw him awake. When she left for school, he was sleeping. When she came home, he was getting ready to leave. Sometimes, on Sundays, they would eat dinner together. Her father would tell her stories about the passengers in his cab, the businessman who forgot his briefcase, the woman who cried the whole ride, the tourist who could not speak English. Maria loved these stories. They were like small windows into a bigger world. But most days, Maria was alone. After school, she walked home by herself. The route took her past many shops and buildings. There was a bakery that smelled like fresh bread. There was a laundromat that was not her mother's. There was a store that sold phones and watches. And there was a church, St. Augustine's Church. It was old and made of brown bricks. The windows were tall and had colored glass. Maria always stopped to look at the windows. The colors were beautiful, red and blue and gold and green. They showed pictures of angels and saints. One cold afternoon in November, Maria heard something coming from inside the church. She stopped walking. She listened. It was a sound she had never heard before. It was like water flowing over rocks. It was like birds singing in the morning. It was like the wind moving through trees. But it was also something more. Something that made her chest feel tight. Something that made her eyes fill with tears. She did not know why. She walked closer to the church. There was a small window on the side, near the ground. Maria kneeled down and looked through the glass. Inside, she saw a large room with wooden benches. At the front, there was a big wooden box with black and white keys. An old man sat in front of it. His fingers moved across the keys. The beautiful sound came from his fingers. Maria did not move. She forgot about the cold. She forgot about going home. She forgot about everything. She just watched and listened. The old man played for a long time. Sometimes the music was fast and happy. Sometimes it was slow and sad. Maria felt every note in her heart. She did not understand music. She did not know the names of the songs. But she understood something important. She understood that this sound was special. This sound was magic. When the old man stopped playing, Maria stayed at the window. She watched him close the lid over the keys. She watched him put on his coat. She watched him turn off the lights. Then she ran home before it got too dark. That night, Maria could not sleep. She lay on her mattress and stared at the ceiling. She could still hear the music in her head. Every note, every melody. She moved her fingers in the air, pretending she was playing the piano. She did not know how to play, but she wanted to learn. She wanted it more than she had ever wanted anything. The next day, Maria went back to the church window. The old man was there again. He played different songs this time. Maria listened for 2 hours. Her knees hurt from kneeling on the hard ground. Her nose was red from the cold, but she did not care. She went back the next day, and the day after that. Every day after school, Maria walked to St. Augustine's Church. Every day, she kneeled at the small window. Every day, she listened to the old man play. She learned his schedule. He came to the church at 3 o'clock. He played until 5 o'clock. Then he went home. Maria never told her parents about the church. She did not know how to explain it. How could she tell them about the music? How could she tell them about the feeling in her chest? They were too busy. They were too tired. They would not understand. Weeks passed. The weather got colder. Snow began to fall. Maria wore her old coat with the broken zipper. She wrapped a scarf around her neck, but she still went to the church. She still kneeled at the window. The snow made her pants wet. The cold made her fingers numb, but the music made her warm inside. One day, Maria noticed something. The old man was not just playing songs. He was teaching himself. He had papers with little black dots on them. He looked at the papers, then pressed the keys. Sometimes he made mistakes. He would stop, shake his head, and try again. Maria found this interesting. Even this old man who played so beautifully still made mistakes. He still had to practice. He still had to learn. This gave Maria hope. Maybe she could learn too. Maybe one day, she could make that beautiful sound with her own fingers. At home, Maria found an old cardboard box. She flattened it out on the floor. She drew keys on it with a black marker. White rectangles for the white keys. Smaller black rectangles for the black keys. She did not know how many keys a real piano had. She guessed. She drew 50 keys. It was not perfect, but it was hers. Every night, after her mother went to sleep, Maria practiced on her cardboard piano. She pressed the paper keys with her small fingers. No sound came out, of course, but Maria heard the music in her head. She imagined she was in the church. She imagined she was the old man. She imagined her fingers were making beautiful sounds. Her mother found her one morning, asleep on the floor, her hands still resting on the cardboard keys. Lynn looked at her daughter for a long time. She saw the drawn piano. She saw Maria's peaceful face. She did not understand what it meant, but she knew it meant something. She covered Maria with a blanket and went to work. Maria was just a poor girl from Queens. She had no piano. She had no teacher. She had no money for lessons. But she had something else. She had a dream. And sometimes, a dream is where everything begins. 2 years passed. Maria was 9 years old now. She was still going to the church window every day. She had not missed a single day. Rain or snow or sun, Maria was always there, kneeling on the ground, watching through the small window, listening to the music. The old man's name was Harold Bernard. Maria did not know this yet. To her, he was just a piano man. She had memorized everything about him. The way he tilted his head when he played soft music. The way he closed his eyes during the sad parts. The way his fingers jumped during the fast songs. She knew his brown sweater with the holes in the sleeves. She knew his gray hair that was always messy. She knew his glasses that sat low on his nose. Mr. Bernard had noticed Maria too. At first he thought she was just a curious child. Children often stopped to look at the church, but then he noticed she came every day. He noticed she stayed for hours. He noticed the way she watched his hands, not his face, his hands. This was unusual. Most people watched the player's face. Only musicians watched the hands. One Tuesday in March, it rained heavily. The sky was dark gray. Water fell in sheets from the clouds. Most people stayed inside. But Maria was at her window. She was soaking wet. Her hair was flat against her head. Her clothes stuck to her skin. But she was there, watching, listening. Mr. Bernard stopped playing. He stood up from the piano bench. He walked to the side door of the church. He opened it and looked at the small girl kneeling in the rain. "Child," he said, "what are you doing out here?" Maria jumped up. Her heart was beating fast. She had been caught. She did not know what to say. She looked at the ground. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I just like to listen." Mr. Bernard looked at her for a long moment. He saw her old coat. He saw her worn shoes. He saw her thin arms. But mostly, he saw her eyes. They were bright and hungry. They were the eyes of someone who loved music. "How long have you been coming here?" he asked. Maria was afraid to answer. She thought she was in trouble. She thought he would tell her to go away and never come back. 2 years, she said quietly. Mr. Bernard's eyebrows went up. 2 years? This small girl had been listening to him play for 2 years. In the cold, in the rain, in the snow, for 2 years. "Come inside," he said. Maria did not move. She was scared. She did not know what would happen. "Come inside," Mr. Bernard said again. "You will get sick in this rain." Maria followed him into the church. It was warm inside. It smelled like old wood and candles. The piano was even more beautiful up close. It was big and black and shiny. The keys looked like teeth, white and black, waiting to bite. "Sit down," Mr. Bernard said. He pointed to the piano bench. Maria sat down. Her wet clothes made the bench wet too. She felt bad about this. But Mr. Bernard did not seem to care. "Put your hands on the keys," he said. Maria lifted her hands. They were shaking. Slowly, she placed her fingers on the keys. They were smooth and cool. They felt perfect under her fingertips. "Press this one," Mr. Bernard said. He pointed to a white key in the middle. Maria pressed it. A sound came out. One single note. It filled the church. It was the most beautiful sound Maria had ever made. "That is middle C," Mr. Bernard said. "It is the center of the piano. Everything starts from middle C." Maria pressed it again. Middle C. She would never forget this note. For the next hour, Mr. Bernard taught Maria the basics. He showed her the white keys and the black keys. He explained how the sounds got higher when you went right and lower when you went left. He taught her how to sit properly, how to curve her fingers, how to keep her wrists relaxed. Maria learned fast. She remembered everything. When Mr. Bernard showed her something once, she did not need to see it again. "You have talent," Mr. Bernard said. "Natural talent. I can see it." Maria did not know what to say. No one had ever told her she was talented at anything. "Can I come back tomorrow?" she asked. Mr. Bernard smiled. It was a warm smile, a kind smile. "You can come back every day," he said. "I will teach you. But I cannot pay for lessons. I am old and retired. I play here for free because I love it." "I don't have money anyway," Maria said. Mr. Bernard laughed. "Then we are a perfect match. I will teach you for free. But you must do something for me." Maria nodded quickly. She would do anything. "You must practice every day," Mr. Bernard said. "You must work hard. You must never give up. Music is not easy. It takes years to learn, decades to master. Can you promise me this?" "I promise," Maria said. And she meant it. From that day on, Maria went to the church every afternoon. Mr. Bernard was waiting for her. He taught her scales and chords. He taught her how to read sheet music. He taught her about composers, Bach and Mozart and Beethoven, Chopin and Debussy and Rachmaninoff. Maria learned about their lives, their struggles, their masterpieces. In exchange for lessons, Maria helped Mr. Bernard organize his sheet music. He had hundreds of pages. They were messy and out of order. Maria put them in alphabetical order by composer, then by title. She was careful with each page. To her, they were treasure. Maria practiced for hours every day. Her fingers got stronger. Her memory got better. She learned simple songs first, then harder ones, then very hard ones. Mr. Bernard was amazed at how fast she improved. In all my years of teaching, he told her, I have never seen anyone learn so quickly. Maria glowed with pride, but she did not let it go to her head. She knew she had much more to learn at home. Maria still practiced on her cardboard piano, but now, she knew what she was doing. She could see the real keys in her mind. She could hear the real sounds in her head. Her cardboard piano was not just pretend anymore. It was practice. Her mother noticed the change in Maria. She seemed happier, more confident. She hummed melodies while doing her homework. She tapped rhythms on the kitchen table. Where do you go after school? Lynn asked one evening. Maria hesitated. She had kept her secret for so long, but she was tired of hiding. I go to the church, Maria said. St. Augustine's an old man there teaches me piano. Lynn was surprised. Piano. Her daughter was learning piano. We cannot afford a piano, Lynn said sadly. I know, Mama. Mr. Bernard teaches me for free. I practice at the church. Lynn looked at her daughter. She saw the hope in her eyes. She saw the joy. She did not understand music. She had never had time for such things. But she understood love, and she could see that Maria loved the piano. Be careful, Lynn said, and come home before dark. That was all. No questions, no complaints, just acceptance. Maria hugged her mother tight. She did not need a piano at home. She did not need expensive lessons. She had Mr. Bernard. She had the church piano. She had her cardboard keys. And most importantly, she had her dream. Mr. Bernard became like a grandfather to Maria. He was patient and kind. He never yelled when she made mistakes. He just smiled and said, try again. He told her stories about famous pianists. He told her about concerts he had attended. He told her about his own dreams when he was young. I wanted to be a concert pianist, he said one day. But life had other plans. I became a music teacher instead. I taught for 40 years. Then I retired. Now I play here, in this church, just for the joy of it. Do you regret it? Maria asked, not becoming a concert pianist. Mr. Bernard thought about this. No, he said finally. Because teaching is its own kind of music. Every student I helped was a note in my song. And now, Maria, you are my final note. My best note. Maria felt tears in her eyes. She did not know what to say, so she said the only thing she could. Thank you, Mr. Bernard. Thank you for everything. The old man patted her hand. No, child. Thank you. You have reminded me why I love music. You have given an old man a reason to wake up every day. They sat together at the piano, teacher and student, two people from different worlds, but connected by something powerful, something eternal. Music. Maria was 15 years old now. 6 years had passed since Mr. Bernard opened the church door and changed her life. She was no longer the small girl at the window. She was a young woman with long black hair and serious eyes. Her fingers were longer now, stronger. They could play pieces that once seemed impossible. Mr. Bernard was 80 years old. His hands shook sometimes. His eyes were not as good as before. He wore thick glasses now, but he still came to the church every day. He still listened to Maria play. He still gave her advice. You have learned everything I can teach you, Mr. Bernard said one spring afternoon. You need a better teacher now, someone who can take you further. Maria shook her head. I don't want another teacher. I want you. Mr. Bernard smiled sadly. I love you like my own granddaughter, Maria. But love is not enough. You have a gift, a rare gift. You need proper training, professional training, the kind I cannot give you. Maria knew he was right. She had known for a while. She could play most of the pieces Mr. Bernard gave her. She needed new challenges, bigger challenges. There is a summer program, Mr. Bernard said. At the Manhattan School of Music. It is for young pianists with exceptional talent. I think you should audition. I've heard of it, Maria said quietly, but it costs money, a lot of money. Mr. Bernard nodded. Yes, but there are scholarships, partial scholarships for students who cannot pay the full amount. You could apply. Maria went home that night and looked up the program on the old computer at the public library. The summer program was 8 weeks long. It included private lessons with famous teachers. It included masterclasses and concerts and practice rooms. It sounded like heaven, but the cost made Maria's heart sink. Even with a partial scholarship, it was thousands of dollars. Her family did not have thousands of dollars. They barely had enough for rent and food. Maria did not tell her parents about the program. She did not want to make them sad. She did not want them to feel guilty for being poor. She decided to forget about it, but Mr. Bernard did not forget. He talked about it every day. He pushed Maria to apply for the audition. At least try, he said. You have nothing to lose. Finally, Maria agreed. She filled out the application. She wrote an essay about her love for music. She recorded herself playing Chopin on the church piano. She sent everything in and waited. 2 months later, a letter arrived. Maria's hands were shaking as she opened it. She read the words 3 times before she believed them. She had been accepted. She had received a partial scholarship. The scholarship covered half the cost, but the other half was still too much. It was still impossible. Maria cried that night. She cried for hours. She had gotten so close to her dream, but the money stood between her and the program like a tall wall she could not climb. She did not tell anyone about the acceptance letter. She hid it under her mattress. She tried to forget about it, but her mother found the letter. Lynn was cleaning the apartment one morning when Maria was at school. She lifted the mattress to turn it over. The letter fell out. Lynn sat down on the floor and read it slowly. Her English was not perfect. She had to read some words twice, but she understood the main points. Her daughter had been accepted into a famous music program. Her daughter had a gift, but they did not have enough money. Lynn felt her heart break. She thought about all the years Maria had practiced, all the afternoons at the church, all the nights with the cardboard piano. Her daughter had worked so hard. She deserved this chance. Lynn looked around the small apartment. There was nothing valuable here. Old furniture, worn clothes, broken appliances, nothing worth selling. Then Lynn looked at her hand. On her finger was a gold ring with a small diamond. Her wedding ring. Wei had given it to her 20 years ago. It was the only valuable thing she owned. The only reminder of happier times, before the hard work, before the tired nights, before the struggle. Lynn held the ring up to the light. The diamond sparkled. It was small, but it was real. It was worth something. For a long moment, Lynn sat there. Memories flooded her mind. The day Wei proposed, their small wedding ceremony, the promises they made to each other, the dreams they had. Then Lynn thought about Maria, her daughter's face when she talked about music, her daughter's fingers moving across the piano keys, her daughter's dream. Lynn made a decision. She took off the ring and put it in her pocket. The next day, while Maria was at school, Lynn went to a jewelry store. She asked how much the ring was worth. The man behind the counter looked at it carefully. He offered her a price. It was not a lot, but it was enough. Lynn sold the ring. When Maria came home that evening, her mother was waiting for her. "Sit down," Lynn said. "I found the letter." Maria's face went pale. "Mama, I'm sorry. I didn't want to worry you. I know we don't have the money. I already decided not to go." Lynn shook her head. She reached into her pocket and pulled out an envelope. She handed it to Maria. "Open it," Lynn said. Maria opened the envelope. Inside was cash. Lots of cash. Enough for the summer program. "Mama," Maria whispered. "Where did you get this?" Lynn smiled, but there was sadness in her smile. "Don't worry about that. Just go to the program. Learn everything you can. Make us proud." Maria looked at her mother's hand. The wedding ring was gone. "Mama, no," Maria said, her eyes filled with tears. "Not your ring. Please, no." Lynn took Maria's hands in hers. "That ring was just a piece of metal, a piece of rock. It cannot play music. It cannot make dreams come true. You can. You are worth more than any ring." Maria could not speak. She could not breathe. The sacrifice was too big, too painful. "I can't accept this," Maria said. "It's too much." Lynn's eyes were firm. "You will accept it. You will go to that program. And one day, when you are a famous pianist, you will buy me 100 rings." "Okay." Maria hugged her mother. They held each other for a long time. Both of them were crying. That summer, Maria went to the Manhattan School of Music. She was nervous at first. The other students came from rich families. They had private teachers since they were children. They had grand pianos in their homes. They looked at Maria's worn clothes and old shoes. Some of them laughed behind her back, but when Maria played, no one laughed. Her first performance was in a masterclass. A famous teacher asked each student to play a piece. Maria played Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. She played it the way Mr. Bernard had taught her, with feeling, with emotion, with soul. When she finished, the room was silent. The famous teacher stared at her. The other students stared at her. No one moved. Then the teacher spoke. "Where did you learn to play like that?" "In a church," Maria said. "An old man taught me." The teacher nodded slowly. "That old man taught you something more important than technique. He taught you how to feel the music, how to live the music. That is very rare." From that moment, everything changed. The other students stopped laughing at Maria. They started respecting her. Some of them even wanted to be her friend. Maria learned more in those 8 weeks than she had learned in 6 years. She practiced for 10 hours every day. She soaked up every lesson like a sponge. She pushed herself harder than ever before. When the summer ended, the director of the program called Maria into his office. "Maria," he said, "you have exceptional talent. I would like to recommend you for a full scholarship to study here after you finish high school. Would you be interested?" Maria could not believe her ears. A full scholarship. Her dream was getting closer. "Yes," she said. "Yes, I would be very interested." Maria went home to Queens. She hugged her mother. She told her everything. The lessons, the performances, the scholarship offer. Lynn cried happy tears. "You see," she said, "the ring was a good trade." Maria held her mother's hand. The hand without the ring. "One day," Maria promised, "one day I will buy you a ring with the biggest diamond in the world." Lynn laughed. I don't need a big diamond. I just need my daughter to be happy." Maria was happy, but she never forgot the sacrifice. She never forgot the gold ring with the small diamond. She never forgot what her mother gave up for her dream. Years later, when Maria finally learned the truth about the ring, she understood something important. Love is not about keeping things. Love is about giving things away. Her mother's ring was gone, but her mother's love would last forever. Maria was 17 years old when she won her first competition. It was a regional piano competition in New York. The prize was small, just $500 and a certificate. But to Maria, it meant everything. She stood on the stage and received her award. The audience clapped. Her mother was in the front row, crying. Mr. Bernard was there too, sitting in a wheelchair now. His health was getting worse, but he had insisted on coming. "I told you," Mr. Bernard said after the ceremony. "I told you from the very first day. You have a gift." Maria hugged the old man gently. He felt fragile in her arms, like he might break. "I could not have done it without you," Maria said. After that first competition, more invitations came. Maria played at local concerts. She performed at school events. She entered more competitions. She did not win all of them. Sometimes she came in second, sometimes third. But she never gave up. She learned from every experience. She got better every time. Her senior year of high school was busy. She had to study for her regular classes. She had to practice for her music. She had to prepare for college auditions. Some days, she slept only for hours. Some days, she forgot to eat. "You are working too hard," her mother said. "You need rest." But Maria could not rest. She was so close to her dream. She could feel it, like something bright and warm, just out of reach. The biggest audition of her life was for Juilliard, the Juilliard School, the most famous music school in America, maybe the world. Only the best students got in. The competition was fierce. Maria prepared for months. She chose her audition pieces carefully. Bach for technique, Chopin for emotion, Liszt for difficulty. She practiced each piece hundreds of times. She knew every note by heart. The day of the audition was cold and gray. Maria took the subway to Manhattan. She wore her best dress. It was old, but it was clean. Her mother had ironed it the night before. The audition room was large and empty. There was a grand piano in the center. A table with 3 judges sat near the wall. They looked serious. They looked important. Maria's heart was beating fast. Her hands were sweating. She wiped them on her dress. "Maria Chen," one of the judges said. "Yes," Maria answered. Her voice was small. "You may begin when you are ready." Maria sat down at the piano. She closed her eyes. She took a deep breath. She thought about Mr. Bernard. She thought about her mother. She thought about all the years of practice. Then she played. She started with Bach. Her fingers moved quickly and precisely. The notes were clean and clear. She made no mistakes. Then she played Chopin. This was her favorite part. The music was sad and beautiful. Maria felt tears in her eyes, but she kept playing. She poured all her emotions into the keys. Finally, she played Liszt. This piece was very hard. Fast passages, big jumps, complicated rhythms. Maria had practiced it thousands of times. Her fingers knew what to do. When she finished, she looked at the judges. Their faces showed nothing. No smile, no frown, just blank expressions. "Thank you, Miss Chen," one of them said. "We will contact you with our decision." Maria walked out of the building. She did not know if she had done well or not. She would have to wait. The waiting was the hardest part. Days turned into weeks. Maria checked the mail every day. Nothing came. Then, one afternoon in April, a large envelope arrived. Maria's hands were shaking as she opened it. She read the first line. "Congratulations. You have been accepted to the Juilliard School with a full scholarship," Maria screamed. She actually screamed out loud. Her mother came running from the kitchen. "What happened? Are you okay?" Maria showed her the letter. Lynn read it slowly. Then she started crying. "My baby," she said. "My baby is going to Juilliard." They hugged and cried together for a long time. That fall, Maria moved into a dormitory in Manhattan. Her room was small, just a bed, a desk, and a closet. But it was hers. Her first room that was truly hers. The other students at Juilliard were different from anyone Maria had ever met. They came from all over the world. China, Russia, Germany, Japan, Brazil. They spoke different languages. They had different backgrounds. But they all had one thing in common. They were all incredibly talented. Maria felt nervous at first. These students had been playing since they were 3 or 4 years old. They had studied with famous teachers. They had performed in big concert halls. They had Steinway pianos in their living rooms. Maria had learned in a church. She had practiced on cardboard keys. She had never seen a Steinway until she came to Juilliard. Some students looked at Maria with curiosity. Some looked at her with doubt. A few looked at her with something like pity. "Where did you study before this?" A student named James asked her one day. He was from Boston. His family was very rich. "I learned at a church in Queens," Maria said. "An old man taught me." James raised his eyebrows. "A church? That's unusual." Maria could hear the judgment in his voice. He did not think she belonged here. He thought she was just a poor girl who got lucky. Maria did not argue with him. She did not need to prove anything with words. She would prove it with her music. The first big test came in her piano performance class. Each student had to play a piece in front of the class. The professor, Dr. Williams, would give feedback. It was terrifying. Playing in front of other talented pianists was harder than any competition. Maria chose to play Chopin's Ballade No. 1. It was a difficult piece, very emotional, very demanding. Some people said it was too hard for a first-year student. When Maria's turn came, she walked to the piano. The room was silent. 20 students watched her. Dr. Williams watched her. Maria could feel their eyes on her back. She sat down. She placed her fingers on the keys. She took a breath, and then she played. The music started soft and gentle, like a whisper, like a secret. Then it grew louder, more passionate, more intense. Maria's fingers flew across the keys. She did not think about the audience. She did not think about the judgment. She only thought about the music. The piece told a story of hope and despair, a story of love and loss, a story of struggle and triumph. Maria lived that story as she played. She felt every emotion. She expressed every feeling. When she hit the final chord, the room was completely silent. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then Dr. Williams spoke. "Miss Chen, where did you learn to play with such emotion?" Maria thought about Mr. Bernard. She thought about her mother. She thought about her small apartment in Queens. She thought about all the struggles, all the sacrifices, all the love. "Life taught me," Maria said. "Life taught me everything." Dr. Williams nodded slowly. "I have been teaching for 30 years. I have heard hundreds of students play, but I have never heard anyone play Chopin like that. You don't just play the notes, you live them." The other students stared at Maria. James stared at Maria. No one said anything, but something had changed. They looked at her differently now. With respect, with admiration, maybe even with a little bit of envy. After that day, Maria's reputation grew. Other students wanted to practice with her. Professors wanted to work with her. She was invited to play at school concerts. She was chosen for special performances. But Maria did not let success change her. She still woke up early to practice. She still worked harder than anyone else. She still called her mother every night. She still visited Mr. Bernard whenever she could. On her second year, Maria entered the school's annual piano competition. It was the biggest competition at Juilliard. The winner would get to perform with the New York Philharmonic. It was a huge honor. Maria practiced for the competition every day for 3 months. She barely slept. She barely ate. She gave everything to the music. The competition had 3 rounds. Maria passed the first round easily. The second round was harder. Well, she passed that too. Only 5 students made it to the final round. On the night of the finals, Maria walked onto the stage of Alice Tully Hall. The auditorium was full. Her mother was there. Some of her teachers were there. The New York Philharmonic conductor was there. Maria sat at the Steinway grand piano. The lights were bright. The audience was silent. She played Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2. It was the most difficult piece she had ever attempted. It required perfect technique, perfect control, perfect emotion. For 20 minutes, Maria gave the performance of her life. She played like she had nothing to lose. She played like she had everything to gain. She played like music was the only thing that mattered. When she finished, the audience erupted. Standing ovation, cheers and applause. Maria stood up and bowed. Tears were streaming down her face. She had done it. She had proven herself. The poor girl from Queens had become a star. Maria won first place. She would perform with the New York Philharmonic. Her picture appeared in music magazines. Her name was mentioned in newspapers. But the best moment came after the competition. Maria went to see Mr. Bernard. He was in a hospital bed now, too weak to come to the concert. Maria sat beside him. She held his hand. "I won," she said. "I won the competition." Mr. Bernard smiled. His eyes were wet with tears. "I always knew," he whispered. "From the very first note, I always knew you were special." Maria kissed his forehead. "Thank you," she said, "for everything, for believing in me, for teaching me, for giving me a chance." Mr. Bernard squeezed her hand weakly. "The music chose you, Maria. I just opened the door." That night, Maria went home to a small dormitory room. She lay on her bed and stared at the ceiling. Success came faster than Maria had ever imagined. After winning the Juilliard competition, doors started opening everywhere. Concert invitations arrived every week. Recording companies called. Managers wanted to represent her. Music critics wrote about the brilliant young pianist from Queens. Maria was 20 years old. She was in her 3rd year at Juilliard. She was supposed to be just another student, but she was becoming something more. She was becoming a star. The pressure started slowly. At first, Maria enjoyed the attention. She loved performing. She loved seeing the audience react to her music. She loved reading good reviews. It made all the hard work feel worth it. But then the expectations grew. Every performance had to be perfect. Every concert had to be better than the last. Every review had to be positive. There was no room for mistakes. No room for weakness. No room for being human. Maria started practicing more. 8 hours a day became 10 hours. 10 hours became 12. She skipped meals. She skipped sleep. She skipped classes that were not about music. Her entire life became the piano. Her teachers noticed the change. "Maria, you need to take breaks," Dr. Williams said. "Your body needs rest. Your mind needs rest." But Maria did not listen. She could not listen. The fear was too strong. The fear that she was not good enough. The fear that she would disappoint everyone. The fear that her success was just luck and would disappear at any moment. One morning in November during her junior year, something strange happened. Maria was practicing a difficult passage from a Liszt piece. Her fingers were moving fast, as they always did, but suddenly, something felt wrong. Her right hand started to curl. The fingers bent inward, toward her palm. Maria tried to straighten them. She could not. It was like her hand had a mind of its own. Maria stopped playing. She stared at her hand. The fingers slowly relaxed. They looked normal again. "Strange," Maria whispered to herself. She went back to practicing. For a few minutes, everything was fine. Then it happened again. Her fingers curled. Her hand cramped. The notes came out wrong. Maria felt a cold fear in her stomach. She took a break. She stretched her hands. She drank water. She tried again. The same thing happened. Every time she tried to play the fast passage, her fingers betrayed her. Maria thought it was just tiredness. She had been practicing too much. She needed rest. She went back to her dormitory and slept for 12 hours. The next day she felt better. She went to the practice room with hope in her heart. Maybe it was just a bad day. Maybe everything would be fine now. It was not fine. The problem was worse. Her fingers curled more often, more severely. She could not play even simple pieces without her hand cramping. Maria started to panic. She went to the campus health center. The doctor examined her hand. He did some tests. He looked confused. "I'm not sure what's causing this," he said. "You should see a specialist." Maria saw a specialist, then another specialist, then another. She went to 5 different doctors over 2 months. Finally, one of them gave her an answer. "You have focal dystonia," the doctor said. "It's a neurological condition. It causes your muscles to contract involuntarily when you try to do specific tasks." Maria stared at him. "What does that mean?" "It means your brain is sending wrong signals to your hand when you play piano. The more you try to play, the worse it gets. Can you fix it?" Maria asked. Her voice was shaking. The doctor looked away. He did not want to meet her eyes. "There is no cure for focal dystonia. Some people recover with therapy. Some people don't." Maria felt the world spinning around her. No cure. Some people don't recover. What did that mean? Was she never going to play piano again? "What about surgery?" Maria asked desperately. "Medication. Anything." The doctor shook his head. "Surgery is not an option for this condition. Medication might help a little, but there are no guarantees. The best treatment is physical therapy and retraining, but it takes a long time, months, sometimes years." Maria walked out of the doctor's office in a daze. She did not remember the subway ride home. She did not remember climbing the stairs to her dormitory. She only remembered lying on her bed and staring at the ceiling. The piano. Her piano. The thing she loved most in the world. The thing she had worked for her entire life. It was being taken away from her. Maria did not leave her room for 3 days. She did not eat. She did not shower. She did not answer her phone. She just lay in bed and cried. Her mother called dozens of times. Maria did not answer. Her professors sent emails. Maria did not read them. Her friends knocked on her door. Maria did not open it. On the 4th day, someone came who would not give up. It was her mother, Lynn. She had taken a bus from Queens. She had borrowed money for the ticket. She stood outside Maria's door and knocked. "Maria," she called. "Open the door. I know you are in there." Maria did not move. "Maria, please. I am your mother. Let me in." Silence. "If you don't open this door," Lynn said, "I will break it down. I am not joking." Maria knew her mother was serious. She slowly got out of bed. She walked to the door. She opened it. Lynn gasped when she saw her daughter. Maria looked terrible. Her hair was tangled. Her face was pale. Her eyes were red from crying. She had lost weight. "Oh, my baby," Lynn said. She pulled Maria into her arms. Maria started crying again. She told her mother everything. The focal dystonia. The doctors. The possibility that she might never play again. Lynn listened without speaking. When Maria finished, Lynn took her daughter's face in her hands. "Look at me," Lynn said. "Look at my eyes." Maria looked. "You're not just a pianist," Lynn said. "You are Maria Chen, my daughter. You are strong. You are brave. You have survived hard things before. You will survive this too." "But Mama Maria Sobe, the piano is everything. Without the piano I am nothing." Lynn shook her head firmly. "No, the piano is not everything. Love is everything. Family is everything. Life is everything. The piano is just part of your story. It is not your whole story." Maria wanted to believe her mother, but the pain was too deep. The loss was too great. The next few weeks were the darkest of Maria's life. She dropped out of Juilliard. She could not stay there, surrounded by music, surrounded by pianists, when she could not play herself. It was too painful. She moved back to Queens. She moved back into the small apartment with her parents. She slept on the same mattress she had slept on as a child. Every day was a struggle. Maria could barely get out of bed. She did not want to see anyone. She did not want to talk to anyone. She just wanted to disappear. Her father, Wei, did not know what to do. He was not good with emotions. He was not good with words. But he tried. Every night, when he came home from driving his taxi, he would sit by Maria's bed. "I drove past Lincoln Center today," he would say. "There was a concert there. Big crowd. I thought of you." Maria would not respond, but Wei kept talking. He told her about his passengers, the funny ones, the sad ones, the strange ones. He told her stories, just like when she was a child. Sometimes, late at night, Maria would hear her parents talking in the kitchen. "We need to do something," Wei would say. "She is getting worse." "I know," Lin would reply. "But what can we do? We cannot fix her hand. We cannot fix her heart. There must be something, someone who can help." Maria heard the worry in their voices. She heard the love, but she could not make herself care. The depression had wrapped around her like a heavy blanket. She could not find her way out. One day, Maria found an old photo album in her closet. She had not looked at it in years. She opened it and started turning the pages. There were pictures of her as a baby, pictures of her first day of school, pictures of birthday parties in the small apartment. And then, she found a picture that made her stop. It was a picture of her at the church, sitting at the piano with Mr. Bernard. She was about 10 years old. She was smiling. Her fingers were on the keys. Mr. Bernard was standing behind her, also smiling. Maria stared at the picture for a long time. She remembered that day. She remembered how happy she was, how full of hope, how sure that music would be her life forever. Tears fell on the photograph. Maria wiped them away quickly, afraid to damage the picture. She thought about Mr. Bernard. She had not visited him in months, not since her diagnosis. She was too ashamed, too sad. She did not want him to see her like this. But looking at the picture, Maria felt something stir inside her, a tiny spark, not hope exactly, but something, a memory of who she used to be, a whisper of who she could be again. Maria did not get better that day. She did not get better the next day, but something had changed. The seed of recovery had been planted. She did not know it yet. But the longest, hardest journey of her life was about to begin. A journey not up to the stage, but down into herself. A journey to find the music that lived inside her, even when her fingers could not play. The fall had been devastating, but sometimes, you have to fall before you can learn to fly. Recovery did not come like a lightning bolt. It did not come like a sudden miracle. It came slowly, painfully, one tiny step at a time, like learning to walk after a terrible accident, like learning to breathe after nearly drowning. Maria was 22 years old when she finally decided to fight. She had spent 6 months in darkness, 6 months of crying, 6 months of sleeping, 6 months of feeling sorry for herself. But one morning she woke up and felt something different. She felt tired, not tired of life, tired of giving up. She remembered something Mr. Bernard had told her years ago. "The music chooses you, Maria. You don't get to choose back." She had thought she understood those words, but she had not understood them at all. Now, lying in her small bed in Queens, she finally understood. The music had chosen her. It lived inside her. It was part of her soul. Even if her fingers could not play, the music was still there. The focal dystonia had taken her ability to perform, but it had not taken the music itself. Maria got out of bed. She took a shower for the first time in days. She put on clean clothes. She went to the kitchen where her mother was making breakfast. Lin looked up. Her eyes went wide. Maria was standing. Maria was dressed. Maria looked almost like herself again. "Good morning, Mama," Maria said. Lin burst into tears. She ran to her daughter and hugged her tight. "You're back," she whispered. "My baby is back." Maria hugged her mother. "I'm going to try, Mama. I don't know if I can get better, but I'm going to try." That same day, Maria made an appointment with a physical therapist who specialized in musicians. His name was Dr. Robert Kim. He worked at a clinic in Manhattan. He had helped other pianists with focal dystonia. Not all of them recovered, but some did. Maria took the subway to Manhattan. It was the first time she had left Queens in months. The city felt loud and bright and overwhelming, but she kept walking. She found the clinic. She went inside. Dr. Kim was a small man with kind eyes and gentle hands. He examined Maria's hand carefully. He asked her many questions. When did the symptoms start? How severe were they? Had she tried any treatments? Maria answered everything honestly. She did not hide anything. She did not pretend to be stronger than she was. After the examination, Dr. Kim sat back in his chair. "I'm not going to lie to you, Maria. Focal dystonia is very difficult to treat. There are no guarantees. Some people recover fully. Some people recover partially. Some people never recover at all." Maria nodded. She had heard this before. "But," Dr. Kim continued, "I have seen miracles in this clinic. I have seen pianists who were told they would never play again, and now they are performing on stages around the world. It is possible. Difficult, but possible. What do I need to do?" Maria asked. Dr. Kim smiled. "You need to start from the beginning. You need to retrain your brain. Right now, your brain has learned a wrong pattern. When you try to play fast passages, it sends the wrong signals to your fingers. We need to teach it the right pattern again. How long will it take? Dr. Kim paused. Months, maybe years. It depends on many things. How hard you work, how your body responds, how patient you can be. Maria took a deep breath. Months, years, it seemed like forever. But what choice did she have? I'll do whatever it takes, she said. The therapy started the next week. It was nothing like Maria expected. She did not play piano at all. Instead, she did strange exercises. She moved her fingers very slowly, one at a time. She practiced relaxing her hand muscles. She learned new ways to sit, to breathe, to hold her arms. Dr. Kim explained the reason for each exercise. Your brain needs to forget the old patterns. We need to erase the bad habits. Only then can we build new, correct patterns. Maria practiced the exercises every day. At home, she sat at the kitchen table and moved her fingers slowly. Her mother watched her sometimes, not understanding what she was doing, but supporting her anyway. Weeks passed. Maria did not see any improvement. Her hands still cramped when she tried to play. The exercises seemed pointless. She started to lose hope. I don't think this is working, she told Dr. Kim after 2 months. Dr. Kim nodded patiently. It's too early to see results. The brain changes slowly. You need to trust the process. Trust the process. Maria had heard those words many times, but trusting was hard, especially when every day felt the same, especially when progress was invisible. Her mother saw Maria's frustration. Lynn had quit her job at the laundromat. She had found a new job as a housekeeper at a hotel in Manhattan. The hours were better, the pay was slightly more, but the real reason she changed jobs was to be closer to Maria's clinic. Every Tuesday and Thursday, when Maria had therapy, Lynn would meet her daughter for lunch. They would sit in a small park near the clinic. They would eat sandwiches from a cheap deli. They would talk about everything and nothing. Do you remember when you were little? Lynn asked one day. You made a piano out of cardboard. You practiced on it every night. Maria smiled sadly. I remember. You had no piano, no teacher, no money. But you practiced anyway, because you believed. Maria looked at her mother. That was different. I was a child. I didn't know any better. Lynn shook her head. No, you knew exactly what you were doing. You believed in something you couldn't see. You believed in a future that didn't exist yet. That is not childish. That is brave. Maria thought about her mother's words for a long time. Maybe Lynn was right. Maybe faith was not about knowing the outcome. Maybe faith was about moving forward anyway, even in the dark, even when you couldn't see the path. After 3 months of therapy, Maria was finally allowed to touch a piano again, but not to play, just to touch. She would sit at the keyboard and place her fingers on the keys. She would not press them. She would just feel them. This is about reconnecting, Dr. Kim explained. Your brain associates the piano with pain and failure now. We need to create new associations, positive associations. Maria sat at the piano for 10 minutes every day, just sitting, just feeling. It was frustrating. She wanted to play so badly. Her fingers itched to move, but she forced herself to be patient. After another month, she was allowed to play single notes, one note at a time, very slowly, with long pauses in between. Middle C, the first note Mr. Bernard had ever taught her. Maria pressed it gently. The sound filled the room. One simple note. It was the most beautiful sound she had ever heard. She played 1 note per day for 2 weeks, then 2 notes, then 3. Her hand did not cramp. The exercises were working. Progress was slow, painfully slow. Some days Maria wanted to scream with frustration. Some days she wanted to quit, but she kept going, 1 note at a time, 1 day at a time. Her father, Wei, helped in his own quiet way. He was still driving his taxi at night, but during the day, when Maria practiced, he would sit nearby and listen. He never said much. He just listened. One afternoon, Maria played a simple 5-note melody. It was nothing special, just 5 notes in a row, but it was the first melody she had played in almost a year. Wei looked at her with tears in his eyes. Beautiful, he whispered. So beautiful. Maria cried too. Not from sadness, from joy, from relief, from the tiny spark of hope that was growing inside her. The months continued to pass. Maria's progress was uneven. Some weeks were good. She could play simple scales without cramping. Some weeks were bad. Her hand would freeze up, and she would have to go back to the basic exercises. Dr. Kim reminded her that setbacks were normal. The brain doesn't heal in a straight line. It heals in waves. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. The important thing is to keep moving. Maria kept moving. She practiced her exercises. She went to therapy. She played her simple notes and scales. She did not give up. 1 year after her diagnosis, Maria could play simple pieces again. Nothing complicated. Nothing fast. But real music. Songs with melodies and harmonies, songs that sounded like something she played for her parents one evening. A simple Chopin nocturne, slow and gentle. Her fingers moved carefully, afraid to push too hard. When she finished, her mother was crying. Her father was crying. Maria was crying too. It's coming back, Maria said. That music is coming back. Lynn held her daughter's hands. The hands that had once been broken. The hands that were slowly healing. I knew it would, Lynn said. I always knew. The road was not over. Maria still had far to go. But she had taken the hardest step. She had decided to fight. She had decided to believe. And sometimes, that decision is the most important part of any journey. 2 years had passed since Maria's diagnosis. 2 years of therapy. 2 years of exercises. 2 years of tears and frustration and small victories. She was 24 years old now. She was not the same person she had been before the focal dystonia. She was stronger, wiser, more humble. Her playing had improved dramatically. She could play moderately difficult pieces without her hand cramping. Not as fast as before, not as perfectly, but well enough. The music flowed through her fingers again, not like a rushing river, but like a gentle stream. It was enough. Dr. Kim was pleased with her progress. "You've come further than I expected," he told her during one of their sessions. "Your dedication has been remarkable." Maria shook her head. "I had no choice. The music is all I have." Dr. Kim looked at her seriously. "That's not true. Maria, you have much more than music. You have your family, your strength, your story. The music is part of you, but it's not all of you." Remember that. Maria thought about his words often. She was beginning to understand that her identity was more than just being a pianist. She was a daughter, a fighter, a survivor. The piano was her passion, but it did not define her entire existence. Still, Maria wanted to perform again, not for fame, not for success, just to prove to herself that she could, just to close a chapter on the darkest period of her life. One day Maria saw an advertisement in a music magazine. There was a small piano competition in Philadelphia. It was not a famous competition. The prize money was modest. Only a few hundred people would attend. But it was a real competition, a real stage, a real audience. Maria stared at the advertisement for a long time. Her heart beat faster. Fear and excitement mixed together in her chest. Could she do it? Could she really compete again? What if her hand cramped on stage? What if she failed in front of everyone? What if the focal dystonia came back worse than before? The questions swirled in her mind for days. She could not sleep. She could not eat. She kept looking at the advertisement, then putting it away, then looking at it again. Finally, she decided to talk to Dr. Kim. "There's a competition in Philadelphia," she said. "I'm thinking about entering." Dr. Kim raised his eyebrows. "A competition? Are you sure you're ready?" "No," Maria admitted. "I'm not sure at all, but I want to try." Dr. Kim was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled. "I think you should do it. Not because you'll win. Not because you need to prove anything to anyone else. But because you need to prove something to yourself." Maria nodded. She understood exactly what he meant. She submitted her application that night. A few weeks later, she received confirmation. She had been accepted. The competition was in 3 months. Maria started practicing seriously. Not the exhausting, unhealthy practice of her past, but focused, mindful practice. She listened to her body. She took breaks when she needed them. She did her therapy exercises every day. She chose her competition piece carefully. Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2. It was the same piece she had played at Juilliard years ago. The piece that had won her the school competition. It was difficult, maybe too difficult for her current condition, but it meant something to her. It was a connection to her past, a bridge between who she was and who she wanted to be again. The months passed quickly. Maria practiced every day at a small church in Queens. Not St. Augustine's. Mr. Bernard was too sick to play anymore, but another church had welcomed her. The pastor had heard her story and offered her free access to their piano. Maria practiced in the empty church, surrounded by silence and stained glass windows. Sometimes she imagined Mr. Bernard was there, watching her, nodding his head, saying try again when she made mistakes. The night before the competition, Maria could not sleep. She lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. Her mind was full of worries. What if she failed? What if she embarrassed herself? What if all her hard work was for nothing? Then she thought about everything she had been through. The church window, the cardboard piano, her mother's wedding ring, Juilliard, the focal dystonia, the 2 years of recovery. She had survived all of that. She could survive this too. The next morning, Maria took a bus to Philadelphia. Her mother wanted to come, but Maria asked her to stay home. "I need to do this alone, Mama. I need to face my fear by myself." Lynn understood. She hugged Maria tight and whispered, "I will be thinking of you every second." The competition was held in a small concert hall. About 200 people sat in the audience. 20 pianists were competing. Maria was number 17. She sat backstage and listened to the other pianists perform. They were good, very good. Some of them were young, just 18 or 19. Their fingers moved fast and clean. Their technique was flawless. Maria felt doubt creeping into her heart. How could she compete with them? She was damaged, broken. She could not play as fast as before. She could not play as perfectly. But then she remembered something Mr. Bernard had told her long ago. Music is not about perfection, Maria. Music is about truth. Play your truth, and the audience will hear it. Her truth. What was her truth? Her truth was struggle. Her truth was pain. Her truth was falling down and getting back up. Her truth was losing everything and finding it again. Her truth was her mother's wedding ring and her father's taxi stories and Mr. Bernard's kind eyes. Her truth was not perfect, but it was real. Number 17. Maria Chen. Maria stood up. Her legs were shaking. Her hands were sweating. She walked to the stage slowly. The lights were bright. The audience was a blur of faces. She sat down at the piano. It was a beautiful Steinway. The keys were smooth and cool under her fingers. Maria closed her eyes. She took a deep breath. She thought about everyone who had helped her reach this moment. Her mother, her father, Mr. Bernard, Dr. Kim, all the people who believed in her when she could not believe in herself. Then she opened her eyes and began to play. The first notes of Rachmaninoff filled the hall, soft and sad, like a whisper from the past. Maria's fingers moved carefully at first, testing feeling, making sure her hand was cooperating. It was as the music built. Maria felt something change inside her. The fear started to melt away. The doubts started to disappear. There was only the music, only the story she was telling. She played about her childhood, the small apartment, the thin walls, the cardboard piano. She played about Mr. Bernard, the church, the lessons, the love. She played about her mother's sacrifice, the gold ring, the tears, the hope. She played about Juilliard, the success, the pressure, the fall. She played about the focal dystonia, the darkness, the despair, the long road back. She played everything, her entire life, every joy, every sorrow, every triumph, every failure. The music poured out of her like water from a broken dam. It was not perfect. There were small mistakes, moments where her hand hesitated, passages that were slower than they should have been. But it was real. It was true. It was her. When she played the final chord, Maria felt tears streaming down her face. She sat still for a moment, her hands resting on the keys. The hall was completely silent. Then someone started clapping. Then another person. Then another. The applause grew louder and louder. People stood up. We were giving her a standing ovation. Maria stood and bowed. She could barely see through her tears. She had done it. She had really done it. She did not expect to win. The other pianists were technically superior, but when the judges announced the results, Maria could not believe her ears. First place, Maria Chen. The audience erupted again. Maria walked to the stage in a daze. She accepted the trophy. She shook hands with the judges. Everything felt like a dream. Afterward, one of the judges approached her. He was an older man with white hair and a kind face. "Miss Chen," he said, "I have judged hundreds of competitions. I have heard thousands of pianists, but I have never heard anyone play with such emotion, such truth. You didn't just play the notes. You lived them." Maria thought of Mr. Bernard. She thought of Dr. Williams at Juilliard. They had both said the same thing. "Thank you," she said. "That means everything to me." That night, Maria called her mother from the bus station. "Mama," she said, "I want—" Lynn screamed so loud that Maria had to hold the phone away from her ear. She could hear her father shouting in the background. She could hear both of them crying. "I knew it," Lynn said. "I knew you could do it. I always knew." Maria smiled through her tears. "I'm coming home, Mama. I'll be there soon." But Maria's journey was not over. A few days after the competition, something unexpected happened. A video of her performance appeared on the internet. Someone in the audience had recorded it on their phone. They had posted it online with a caption, "You won't believe this pianist's story." The video went viral. Within a week, it had been viewed millions of times. People all over the world watched Maria play. They read about her story, the poor girl from Queens, the church window, the focal dystonia, the incredible recovery. Messages poured in from everywhere, from musicians, from doctors, from ordinary people who had faced their own struggles. They all said the same thing. Maria's story had inspired them. Maria's music had touched them. Maria Chen had fallen, but she had gotten back up. And now, the whole world was watching. Maria's life changed overnight. The viral video transformed her from an unknown pianist into a global sensation. News channels wanted to interview her. Magazines wanted to write about her. Documentary filmmakers wanted to tell her story. At first, Maria did not know how to handle the attention. She was not used to cameras and microphones. She was not used to strangers recognizing her face on the street. She had spent 2 years hiding from the world. Now the world was searching for her. Her mother helped her navigate the chaos. Lynn answered phone calls. She sorted through emails. She kept reporters away when Maria needed rest. She was like a shield, protecting her daughter from the storm. "You don't have to say yes to everything," Lynn reminded her. "You can choose what feels right." Maria was grateful for her mother's wisdom. She turned down most interviews. She said no to the documentary. She wanted to focus on what mattered most, her music. 3 months after the Philadelphia competition, Maria received an email that made her heart stop. She read it 5 times before she believed it was real. The email was from Carnegie Hall. Carnegie Hall, the most famous concert hall in America, maybe the most famous in the world. Every great pianist in history had performed there. It was the dream of every musician, the ultimate stage. The email explained that Carnegie Hall had a special program called Emerging Artists. It was for young musicians who showed exceptional promise. Each year they invited a few select performers to give concerts at the hall. The concerts were not in the main auditorium. They were in a smaller space called Weill Recital Hall, but it was still Carnegie. Hall, it was still a dream come true. The email invited Maria to perform in the Emerging Artists series. The concert would be in December. She would have 6 months to prepare. Maria stared at the screen. Her hands were trembling. Carnegie Hall wanted her. After everything she had been through, after the focal dystonia, after dropping out of Juilliard, after 2 years of therapy, Carnegie Hall wanted her. She called her mother immediately. "Mama, you need to come here, right now." Lynn rushed into the room. "What happened? Are you okay?" Maria pointed at the computer screen. "Read this." Lynn read the email slowly. Her English had improved over the years, but she still moved her lips when she read. When she finished, she looked at Maria with wide eyes. "Carnegie Hall," she whispered. "Is this real?" "I think so," Maria said. "I don't understand how. I'm nobody. I'm just a girl from Queens who won a small competition." Lynn shook her head. "You are not nobody. You are Maria Chen, and the world is finally seeing what I have always seen." Maria hugged her mother tight. They both cried. Happy tears. Overwhelmed tears. Tears of disbelief and gratitude. That evening, Maria knew she had to do something important. She had to tell Mr. Bernard. Mr. Bernard was 86 years old now. His health had declined rapidly over the past year. He could no longer walk. His eyes were failing. He lived in a nursing home in Queens, just a few miles from where Maria had first seen him play. Maria visited him every week. She would sit by his bed and tell him about her life. Sometimes she played recordings of her music on her phone. Mr. Bernard would close his eyes and listen, a small smile on his face. Today, Maria walked into the nursing home with the email printed in her hands. She found Mr. Bernard in his usual spot by the window. The afternoon sunlight fell across his thin white hair. "Mr. Bernard," Maria said softly. "It's me, Maria." The old man turned his head. His eyes were cloudy, but they still had warmth in them. "Maria, my star, come, sit." Maria sat in the chair beside his bed. She took his hand. It was thin and fragile, like paper. "I have something to tell you," she said. "Something wonderful." Mr. Bernard squeezed her hand weakly. "Tell me." "I've been invited to play at Carnegie Hall." For a moment, Mr. Bernard did not respond. Maria thought maybe he had not heard her, but then she saw tears forming in his cloudy eyes. "Carnegie Hall," he whispered. "My Maria at Carnegie Hall." Maria nodded, her own eyes filling with tears. "I couldn't have done it without you. None of this would have happened without you. You opened the door. You gave me a chance. You believed in me when I was just a little girl at your window." Mr. Bernard lifted his trembling hand to Maria's face. He touched her cheek gently. "I knew," he said. "From the very first note you played, I knew you were special. I knew you would go far. But Carnegie Hall." He paused, overcome with emotion. "This is more than I ever dreamed." Maria leaned forward and kissed his forehead. "Will you come? Will you come to the concert?" Mr. Bernard smiled sadly. "I don't know if these old bones can make the journey, but I will try. I will do everything I can to be there." They sat together for a long time, not speaking, just holding hands, teacher and student. Two lives connected by music, two hearts beating as one. When Maria left the nursing home, she felt a mix of joy and sadness. Joy because her dream was coming true. Sadness because Mr. Bernard was fading. She did not know how much time he had left. She prayed he would live long enough to see her perform at Carnegie Hall. The next 6 months were the busiest of Maria's life. She practiced for hours every day. She worked with a new teacher, a famous pianist named Alina Volkov, who had heard about Maria's story and offered to help her prepare. Alina was tough, demanding. She pushed Maria harder than anyone ever had. "Carnegie Hall is not a small competition in Philadelphia," Alina said. "The audience will include critics, musicians, and industry leaders. They will judge every note. You must be perfect." Maria bristled at the word perfect. She knew she could never be perfect. Her hand still had limitations. Her technique was still recovering, but she worked as hard as she could. She gave everything she had. She chose her program carefully. She would play Chopin's Ballade No. 1, the piece she had performed at Juilliard years ago. She would play Debussy's Clair de Lune, one of the first pieces Mr. Bernard had taught her, and she would end with Rachmaninoff, the same concerto that had won her the Philadelphia competition. Each piece had a special meaning. Each piece was a chapter in her story. As December approached, Maria felt the pressure building. She had nightmares about forgetting her music, about her hand cramping on stage, about embarrassing herself in front of the Carnegie Hall audience, but she also felt something else, something stronger than fear. She felt ready. All her life had been leading to this moment. Every struggle, every sacrifice, every tear, it had all been preparation for this. 1 week before the concert, Maria went to visit Mr. Bernard again. He was weaker than before. He could barely keep his eyes open. "The concert is next week," Maria said. "December 14th. Will you be there?" Mr. Bernard opened his eyes slowly. "I will be there," he said. "Even if I have to crawl, I will be there to hear my Maria play at Carnegie Hall." Maria held his hand and cried. She cried for the little girl who had pressed her face against a church window. She cried for the teenager who had practiced on cardboard keys. She cried for the young woman who had lost everything and found it again. She cried for all of it, every moment, every memory. every note. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for everything. Mr. Bernard smiled. His eyes were peaceful. No, Maria, thank you. You have given this old man the greatest gift. You have shown me that the music will live on. Long after I am gone, the music will live on, through you. Maria stayed until Mr. Bernard fell asleep. Then she kissed his forehead and walked out into the cold December night. The concert was in 7 days. The biggest moment of her life was coming, and Maria Chen was ready to face it. December 14th arrived cold and clear. The sky over New York City was deep blue, without a single cloud. The sun was bright but gave no warmth. It was the kind of winter day that made everything feel sharp and real. Maria woke up early. She had barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the Carnegie Hall stage. She saw the piano. She saw the audience. Her heart raced until she had to open her eyes again. She got out of bed and looked at herself in the mirror. The woman looking back at her was not the same girl who had pressed her face against a church window 17 years ago. That girl had been small and thin, with hungry eyes and worn clothes. This woman was taller, stronger, with calm eyes and a quiet confidence. But inside, Maria still felt like that little girl. Scared, hopeful, desperate to prove herself. Her mother knocked on the door. Maria, are you awake? Yes, Mama, come in. Lynn entered the room. She was already dressed in her best outfit, a simple black dress that she had bought for the occasion. She had gotten her hair done at a salon for the first time in years. She looked beautiful. How do you feel? Lynn asked. Maria took a deep breath, terrified, excited, sick, all at the same time. Lynn smiled and sat on the bed. That is normal. That means you care. That means this matters to you. What if I fail, Mama? What if I mess up in front of everyone? Lynn took Maria's hands in hers. Then you will mess up, and then you will keep going, just like you have always done. Failing is not the end, Maria. Giving up is the end, and you never give up. Maria hugged her mother. She breathed in the familiar smell of her hair, soap and jasmine. The smell of home, the smell of safety. I love you, Mama. I love you too, my star. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Maria tried to eat breakfast, but she could only manage a few bites. She tried to practice, but her fingers felt clumsy and disconnected. She tried to rest, but her mind would not stop racing. Her father came home early from work. Wei had taken the night off from driving his taxi. He had never seen Maria perform in a real concert hall. Tonight would be the first time. Are you nervous? Wei asked. Maria laughed. Very nervous. Wei nodded slowly. He was not a man of many words, but he reached into his pocket and pulled out something small. I want you to have this, he said. Maria looked at his hand. He was holding a small jade pendant on a gold chain. It was old and worn. The jade was a deep green color. This belonged to my mother, Wei said. Your grandmother? She gave it to me before I left China. She said it would bring me luck. It brought me to America. It brought me to your mother. It brought me you. He pressed the pendant into Maria's hand. Now it is yours. Let it bring you luck tonight. Maria felt tears in her eyes. Her father had never talked about his mother. He had never shared anything so personal. This pendant was a piece of his history, a piece of his heart. Papa, I can't take this. It's too precious. Wei shook his head. Nothing is too precious for my daughter. Wear it tonight. Let your grandmother watch over you from heaven. Maria put the chain around her neck. The jade pendant rested against her chest, cool and smooth. She could feel its weight, its history, its love. Thank you, Papa. Wei nodded. His eyes were wet, but he did not cry. He just patted Maria's shoulder and walked away. At 4 o'clock, a car arrived to take Maria to Carnegie Hall. The concert was at 7, but she needed time to warm up, to get dressed, to prepare mentally. The drive through Manhattan was slow. Traffic was heavy. Maria looked out the window at the crowds of people walking on the sidewalks. They were shopping, talking, laughing. They had no idea that her entire life was about to change. They had no idea that a poor girl from Queens was about to perform at Carnegie Hall. When the car pulled up to the famous building on 57th Street, Maria felt her breath catch in her throat. She had seen pictures of Carnegie Hall. She had dreamed about it for years, but nothing had prepared her for the reality. The building was massive, grand, historic. The name Carnegie Hall was carved in stone above the entrance. Posters announced upcoming concerts, world-famous orchestras, legendary musicians. And there, on a small poster near the door, Maria saw her own name, Maria Chen, Emerging Artists Series, December 14th. Her name, at Carnegie Hall. It still did not feel real. Maria entered through the stage door. A staff member led her through a maze of hallways to her dressing room. The room was small but elegant. A mirror with lights, a comfortable chair, a bouquet of flowers from the Carnegie Hall management. Maria sat down and looked at her reflection. Her face was pale. Her eyes were wide. She looked scared. You can do this, she whispered to herself. You have done harder things. You can do this. At 5 o'clock, she went to the stage to warm up. The Weil recital hall was smaller than the main Carnegie Hall auditorium, but it was still magnificent. Red velvet seats, crystal chandelier, perfect acoustics. And there, in the center of the stage, a beautiful Steinway grand piano. Maria sat at the piano and played a few scales. The sound filled the hall, clear, pure, resonant. The piano was perfect. The acoustics were perfect. Everything was perfect except for the storm of fear raging inside Maria's chest. She practiced for an hour. She ran through her pieces. Her fingers cooperated. Her hand did not cramp. The focal dystonia stayed quiet, but Maria knew that the real test would come when the hall was full, when 200 people were watching her, when the pressure was at its peak. At 6 o'clock, Maria returned to her dressing room to get ready. She put on her concert dress. It was long and black, with simple, elegant lines. Alina Volkov had helped her choose it. You want the audience to focus on your music, not your clothes, Alina had said. Maria did her hair. She put on a little makeup. She touched the jade pendant at her throat. At 6:30 there was a knock on her door. A staff member told her that her family had arrived. They were being seated in the front row. Maria's heart swelled. Her mother, her father, they were here. They were going to watch her play at Carnegie Hall. Then the staff member said something else. There's also a gentleman in a wheelchair. He says his name is Harold Bernard. He said you would want to know he's here. Maria burst into tears. Mr. Bernard, he had made it. Despite his failing health, despite his weakness, he had come. She wanted to run out and see him, to hug him, to thank him. But there was no time. The concert was starting in 25 minutes. Maria dried her tears. She fixed her makeup. She looked at herself in the mirror one more time. This is for you, Mr. Bernard, she whispered. This is for everyone who believed in me. At 6:55 a stage manager came to get her. 5 minutes, Miss Chen. Maria followed him through the hallways. Her legs felt weak. Her heart was pounding. She could hear the murmur of the audience through the walls. She stood backstage, hidden by the heavy curtain. Through a small gap, she could see the audience. Every seat was filled. Critics with notebooks, musicians with sharp ears, music lovers with high expectations. And in the front row, she saw them, her mother in her black dress, clutching her hands together, her father in his one good suit, sitting stiff and proud, and next to them, in a wheelchair, Mr. Bernard. He was wrapped in a blanket. A nurse sat beside him, but he was there. His eyes were fixed on the stage, waiting for his Maria. Ladies and gentlemen, a voice announced over the speakers, Carnegie Hall is proud to present, as part of our Emerging Artists series, pianist Maria Chen. Applause filled the hall. This was it, the moment she had worked for her entire life. Maria walked onto the stage. The lights were bright. The audience was silent. The piano waited for her like an old friend. She sat down on the bench. She adjusted her dress. She placed her fingers on the keys. For 3 eternal seconds, she did not move. She could not move. The fear was too strong. The doubt was too loud. Every voice that had ever told her she was not good enough screamed in her head. Then she looked at the front row. She saw her mother's face, full of love, full of faith. She saw her father's face, nervous but proud. She saw Mr. Bernard's face, old and tired, but shining with joy. They believed in her. They had always believed in her. Now she had to believe in herself. Maria took a deep breath. She closed her eyes. She let everything else fall away. The audience, the pressure, the fear. There was only the music, only the piano, only this moment. She opened her eyes, and she began to play. The first notes of Chopin's Ballade No. 1 floated into the air like leaves falling from a tree. Soft, gentle, almost hesitant. Maria's fingers moved across the keys with the lightness of a whisper. The audience disappeared. The hall disappeared. There was only Maria and the piano, 2 old friends having a conversation without words, a conversation of pure emotion. Maria played the opening melody and thought about the little girl at the church window. That girl had nothing. No piano, no teacher, no money, just a dream and a cardboard keyboard. That girl had watched an old man's fingers dance across the keys and imagined a different life. The music grew stronger. Maria's fingers moved faster. The melody rose and fell like ocean waves. She thought about Mr. Bernard opening the church door that rainy day. She thought about her first lesson, her first note. Middle C, the center of everything. The Chopin Ballade built toward its first climax. Maria's hands flew across the keyboard. The notes tumbled out like water rushing over rocks. She did not think about technique. She did not think about the audience. She just played. She let the music flow through her like blood through veins. She thought about her mother's wedding ring, the small diamond that had caught the light, the sacrifice that had made everything possible. Lynn had given up the most precious thing she owned so that Maria could chase her dream. That ring was gone now, but its love remained. Its love was in every note Maria played. The music softened again. A quiet passage, tender and sad. Maria thought about Juilliard. The excitement of being accepted, the pressure of being surrounded by talented students, the joy of winning the competition, the applause, the success, the feeling that she had finally arrived. Then the darkness, the focal dystonia, the curling fingers, the doctor's words, some people never recover. Maria felt the memory of that pain as she played. She let it flow into the music. She did not hide from it. She did not pretend it never happened. She embraced it. It was part of her story, part of who she was. The ballad moved toward its dramatic middle section. Fast and furious, Maria's fingers raced across the keys. Her right hand moved with precision. No cramping, no hesitation. The years of therapy, the hours of exercises, the endless patience. It had all led to this moment. Maria thought about Dr. Kim, about Alina Volkov, about everyone who had helped her rebuild herself. Recovery was not a solo journey. It took a village. It took love. It took people who believed in you when you could not believe in yourself. The music crashed like thunder. Then it became quiet again. Maria played the gentle melody that returned near the end of the piece. She thought about her father's jade pendant, cool against her skin. She thought about her grandmother, whom she had never met, watching over her from somewhere beyond the stars. She thought about Mr. Bernard, sitting in the front row in his wheelchair, 86 years old, barely able to see, but he was here. He had kept his promise. He had come to watch as Maria play at Carnegie Hall. The final pages of the Chopin approached. Maria played the dramatic conclusion with everything she had. Her whole body moved with the music. Her fingers struck the keys with power and precision. The notes filled the hall like fireworks exploding in the night sky. When she played the final chord, she held it for a long moment. The sound echoed through the hall. Then silence. Complete silence. Maria lifted her hands from the keys. She sat still, breathing hard. She did not know if she had played well. She did not know if the audience liked it. She only knew that she had given everything. Every drop of her soul was in that performance. Then the applause began. It started slowly. A few people clapping, then more, then more. Within seconds, the entire hall was applauding. The sound was like a wave crashing over Maria. People stood up. They cheered. They shouted bravo. Maria stood from the piano bench. Her legs were shaking. Tears streamed down her face. She bowed to the audience. She could not see their faces through her tears. She could only hear their love. She looked at the front row. Her mother was standing, crying, clapping her hands so hard they must have hurt. Her father was standing too, his face wet with tears, applauding with an expression of wonder. And Mr. Bernard, in his wheelchair, could not stand. But he was clapping. His thin, fragile hands came together again and again. And he was smiling, smiling with pure joy. Maria bowed to them, not to the whole audience, to them, to her family, to the people who had made her who she was. The applause continued. Maria sat back down at the piano. She still had more to play. She still had Debussy and Rachmaninoff. She played Clair de Lune with tenderness. The music was like moonlight on water, soft and shimmering, beautiful and sad. She thought about all the nights she had practiced on her cardboard piano, all the dreams she had dreamed in her small apartment in Queens. Those dreams had seemed impossible then. But here she was, living them. After Clair de Lune, the applause was even louder. People were crying in the audience. Maria could see them wiping their eyes. Finally, she played the same piece she had played in Philadelphia, the piece that had changed everything. She played it with power and passion. She played it with gratitude. She played it with love. When the final note faded into silence, the audience erupted again. Standing ovation, cheers, shouts. The applause went on for 5 minutes. 10 minutes. Maria bowed again and again. She did not want the moment to end. Finally, the audience sat down. The house lights came on. The concert was over. Maria walked off the stage in a daze. She felt like she was floating, like she was in a dream. Backstage, people rushed to congratulate her. Stage managers, Carnegie Hall staff, Alina Volkov, who had tears in her eyes. "You were magnificent," Alina said. "Absolutely magnificent." But Maria only wanted to see one person. She pushed through the crowd and made her way to the front of the house. Her parents were waiting in the lobby. They rushed to her and wrapped her in their arms. "My baby," Lynn sobbed. "My beautiful, talented baby." "So proud," Wei said. His voice was thick with emotion. "So proud of you." They held each other for a long time. A family of 3, bound by love, bound by sacrifice, bound by dreams that had come true. Then Maria saw him, Mr. Bernard, in his wheelchair being pushed by his nurse. He looked exhausted. The trip to Carnegie Hall had taken everything out of him, but his eyes were bright. His smile was radiant. Maria knelt beside his wheelchair. She took his hands in hers. "Mr. Bernard," she said, "I did it. We did it." The old man looked at her with infinite love. "No, Maria, you did it. I just opened a door. You walked through it. You climbed the mountain. You earned this." Maria shook her head. "I could never have done it without you. You saw something in a little girl at a window. You believed in her when no one else did. You gave her a gift that changed her life." Mr. Bernard squeezed her hands weakly. "The gift was not from me, Maria. The gift was always inside you. I just helped you find it." They sat together in the lobby of Carnegie Hall, teacher and student. 2 people from different worlds, different generations, but connected by something eternal, something that would never die. Music. Later that night, Maria went home to Queens. She was exhausted but could not sleep. She lay on her bed and looked at the ceiling, the same ceiling she had stared at as a child, the same ceiling she had stared at during the darkest days of her illness. But everything was different now. She was different. She thought about her journey, the church window, the cardboard piano, The wedding ring, Juilliard. The focal dystonia. The 2 years of recovery, Philadelphia Carnegie Hall. It was not a straight line. It was not easy. There were falls and failures. There were moments when she wanted to give up, but she kept going. She kept playing. She kept believing, and now, she had done something impossible. A poor girl from Queens had played at Carnegie Hall. A broken pianist had performed in front of the world. A dream had become reality. Maria smiled in the darkness. She touched the jade pendant at her throat. She thought about everyone who had helped her along the way. Her mother, her father, Mr. Bernard, Dr. Kim Elena, all the people who had believed in her. She made a silent promise. She would keep playing. She would keep performing. She would use her story to inspire others, to show them that dreams are possible, that obstacles can be overcome, that the music inside you can never be silenced. She had been nervous before her performance. She had been terrified. She had doubted herself. But then her fingers touched the keys, and everything changed. Maria Chen closed her eyes and smiled. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new obstacles, new mountains to climb. But she was ready. She had always been ready. The little girl at the church window had become a woman. The cardboard piano had become a Steinway. The dream had become a life. And the music would never stop.